Hello everybody, welcome to Liam's Library. Today, I'm so happy I get to once again talk about my favourite author. Now, I don't have to explain, it's not Stephen King, it's not Peter Shroud, it's not David Morrell, it's not Joe Hill, it is the legendary, rest in peace, John D MacDonald. My favourite writer, my personal favourite writer. I'm not saying he's the best to me. He's amazing, and he's written so much stuff, but they're always hard to get a hold of. And I don't really buy lots of books online. I like to shop around secondhand bookstores. So I sorted out all my books the other day, and I needed something to read that I just enjoy. Not anything for any reason, just so I could sit back and enjoy myself while I read a fucking book. And I found a Travis McGee story that I hadn't read yet. Bright Orange for the Shroud. I always wanted to read it because, so I've mentioned this before. Travis McGee stories by John D MacDonald. They were published in the 60s, and then he died in 86, and that's when they stopped. And there's 22 of them, 22 or 21. I've read I can't even say just under half of them. So I've read lots of them, and I've read them all over the place. So I read The Deep Blue Goodbye, and then I read, Free Falling Crimson, which is like the 19th one. I've read The Green Ripper, which is 18. I've read Darker Than Amber, which is book 7. I've read that like 3 times because it's a fucking great one. Travis McGee is a recurring character by John D MacDonald. He lives in Florida on a houseboat in Bahia Mar. And he won the houseboat in a poker game, and it's really cool. And he's a salvage consultant, right? All that means is, if somebody has had something taken off them, like a whole heap of money or like a whole heap of gold or something priceless, and it's been taken off them either legally or illegally, and with like violence or something, and like nobody's going to help them, no lawyer can help them, no cop can help them, they go and see Trav. And Trav will say, okay, I'll do my very best to recover everything they took from you, but I get half. And half is better than none because you would have had none, So it's like, so they have to agree, or he just doesn't take it. And it's not like he takes the case. He's a beach bum in Florida. He's like 6'4", he's a big fucking boy, tanned as fuck, Florida style, works on his exercise fucking routine, loves women, and just he's the reoccurring character that you just want to read about. He's fucking amazing. John D MacDonald would have been famous for his books anyway, but Travis McGee just fucking made every person just go, wow, this is how you write about a character over and over. You can bring him back for new adventures, new journeys. So the one I read was Bright Orange for the Shroud. I think it's like number 6. I think it's the one before Darker Than Amber. And every one of them has a colour. So, The Deep Blue Goodbye, Nightmare in Pink, A Purple Place for Dying. And the colour and the title work its way into the book. So it's not even gimmicky. It's really, actually really well done. Now, I want to say this about John D MacDonald. His books are short. Every single one of them is just about 200 pages, just over or just under. Nearly 300 sometimes. He takes the time to tell you what every little character is wearing. I'm not saying like Bret Easton Ellis where he overdoes it and you just get bored about reading about these yuppies and the expensive clothes they wear. His description of these characters give you an insight into their mind and their character. And Travis McGee, our main character, everything's written in first person from his point of view. So he actually gets to analyze every person that he comes across, which it's kind of risky. And it feels like you're taking too much time to work out what he's saying, but you can fly through a Travis McGee book in like a couple of hours. In a few hours, you can smash that shit. It's like a delicious cold beer. You just knock it off. This one, Bright Orange for the Shroud, is really good. Travis has been having a really lazy summer. He's done fuck all. He's even gotten soft. Right now, I can relate to this book, and I think I read it at a perfect time because I just started a new job. And it's a really, really strenuous, hard-working job. And I can be a hard-working man, but I got soft, man. I was doing support work for so long, I fucking got soft. I'm a big white belly, and that's weak as piss. Normally, I can do full days work, 5-6 days a week, and just smash it out. So it was the perfect time for me to read this book. because, okay, so this story, Travis is on his houseboat and he's thinking to himself like how lazy he's been and like how he just hasn't been keeping up his fitness and how he's running out of money and how like he's just sort of stopped giving a fuck. And he lives in his head, and so we're reading how he feels. And he's sort of saying like the older you get, the more you really have to look after your body. But he hasn't. And all of a sudden, an old friend of his, not a good friend, but an old friend, rocks up on his houseboat. And he's like skinny, like he's just fucked, like he's dead on his feet. He actually collapses on the gangplank up to Travis's boat. So Travis like thinks shit, like fuck it, like. And Travis like he didn't want any guests, especially this guest. Like they weren't that close friends, you know. It's just sort of some guy. Like they're not really have anything in common. But it's like, oh shit, like this guy's like, he's dead on his feet. Like even worse than that, like he's never seen this guy look like this. He brings him in, checks his arms and stuff to see if maybe it was drugs or something like that. Gives him some water and lets him pass out. Slowly feeds him soup and that over the next day. And then just thinks, fuck, I don't need this. You know what I mean? Like I've got fuck all money left. Like my summer's not over. He's gotten real lazy. So he's trying to think, who did this guy used to fuck? Like, who did he used to go out with? And he comes up with this chick named fucking, I forget her first name, something McCall anyway. And he calls her up and he takes her out for dinner and he's being, like, Travis is a jerk, right? Like I said, these books are 50s, 60s and 70s. So, like, they're very chauvinistic, but, like, in a really intelligent kind of John D MacDonald way, where you just get to see every side of every person's mentality, psyche and character. And so he tries to palm this guy off to some chick that he used to fuck. This what's her name, Brookie McCall or something like that. And she's like, well, what's happened to him? And she's like, you know what? Fuck that guy. He dropped me fucking a year ago and then took off with some super hot blonde. And like, why? I'm not a fucking babysitter, Trav. Why the fuck should I care? And so she comes back anyway and she sees him, and she's like, that's not him. Like something must have happened to him for him to be this malnourished, this fucked, you know? Like, he looks like he's just fucking, he looks fucked. He looks like an old feral homeless man. So, she's like, I'm going to talk to him. When he wakes up, I'm going to talk to him. And Travis is like, yeah, whatever. He kind of wants them both off his boat. And so over the next day or two, she comes around and she chats to him and finds out that, you know, he had like, I think it was $140,000. I think it was about $240,000, right? It was money that he had a year ago and it was from his dad's business and he was always trying to work it. But this, you know, this super ridiculously trendy hot blonde, like this ridiculous 10 out of 10 starlet, you know, falls in love with him, fucks him, and fucks his brains out. So it's like, this guy's never had a chick like this before. So he's like, he's completely starstruck, like moonstruck, like over this chick. Like he can't see clearly. All he knows is that he's getting pussy. Fuck yeah, like he's going to buy her what she wants. The money starts running out, but not really, like he's got the bulk of it, like the 200 grand in his bank. All of a sudden, like, okay, so this is what this other woman, Brookie McCall, gets out of him every time he wakes up, and he gives her a little bit of the story about what happened to him since he's been gone. Now, this ridiculous, fuck, I forget her name, it doesn't matter anyway. She's like just this stupidly, like Hollywood-looking blonde. You know what I mean? Certainly not my fucking type, but you know, one of these big blonde-haired fucking, just super energetic fucking blondes, right? And she proceeds to work him and introduce this guy to a whole bunch of people that she met just by chance. It's not by chance. And she's trying to set him up to start this business and get involved in these guys. And if he doesn't want to go along with her plan, she stops giving him sex and just completely cutting him off like he's a piece of shit. So he wants to do anything to please this woman. So he starts pledging all this money for some land deal, some land development deal. And straight away, to keep the deal and to make a shitload of money, he's going to get like $1.5 million in a year if he does this. He's got to pledge like 50 grand. Then he's got to pledge another 50 in about a month's time. But it's got to be worth his while. Or is it? Now, there's this bit in this book where Travis and his best friend Maya, who's like this economist, who's just one of the smartest fucking characters in any book. Anything that comes out of Maya's mouth in this book, you want to pay attention to what he's saying. He's very fucking clever. And him and Trav are like polar opposites. But their back and forth banter is just fucking fantastic. So when they meet, they actually meet this blonde, a year before Travis and Maya do. And Travis is like, what do you think of her? It's like, fucking hell, she's got teeth, And Maya's like, what do you think, Trav? And he says this really cool analogy. And I'm not going to go into it because it'll take me too long and I won't be able to explain it properly. But it's like, it's about like how even men have a feminine side. Now a man with 100% masculinity without any percentage of a feminine side is quite a dangerous man. And it's not because he doesn't have that femininity. It's because he doesn't have the duality. And someone that doesn't have that duality of like both sides of the spectrum to look at is quite literally a psychopath. Now think about it the other way. A woman who is just all complete femininity without any kind of masculinity whatsoever, what kind of woman would she be? And he always puts it in a question to Trav. And that's a way that you realize straight away in this book, this woman is fucking dangerous. And Travis and Maya realize it, but this guy, Travis's old kind of friend, gets taken for his money. But even more than that, they strip him down to nothing. They take every 50 grand, another 50, then another 20, then another 15, till they're like, listen, you're not going to get nothing back until you give us 8 grand to keep your spot. And there's a bit more to it than that. But like he's running out of everything. And the thing is, he's so low on money now that if he doesn't keep up with it, he may not get anything back. So he's got to do the best he can. Then like he's going to meetings and they're drugging him. He ends up on the street. He ends up trying to get back. He ends up getting beat up so bad they give him brain trauma, and he ends up going to fucking prison and being on a prison gang. And then he finally gets back to see Trav. And it's all he can think of is to ask Trav for help. And Trav doesn't want to help. But this chick that used to go out with this guy, like, I think it's Chucky McCall her name is. I keep fucking saying that. Apologies. Chucky McCall, there you go. She's like, you have to fucking help this man, Trav. Like, you have to. Fuck you. What else are you doing? So he takes his houseboat, he takes this guy, and he takes Chucky McCall, and they park the big houseboat off the coast of Florida, and they need to get his energy back. Because Trav can't do this on his own. He needs this motherfucker's help. And he needs him to give him way more information. For Trav to do his cool Travis McGee thing, he needs to build this up, and he has to get a plan. So they're out there for like a week and a half on this boat, and they've got heaps of supplies. Like, this boat is huge, man. It's fucking awesome. And Travis realizes how soft he's gotten. So this whole time, over these few days, he's just eating right. He stops drinking, he stops smoking, he's swimming, he's fishing, and he's just doing all these exercise routines and all this diet. And it's good because, like I said, I just started this new job and I was soft as shit. And I needed to know how Trav did it because, Trav is a man's man. That's the guy you want to listen to. And so he does. He gets good. And then all of a sudden he knows the day that he's right and he's good and his mind's clear and his body is fucking ready to... Because Travis had to take on some big scary dudes and he's had to kill them and bury them in the sand with his hands. You know what I mean? Like, he's had to do some fucking hectic shit. And so I'm not going to go right into the complexity of the ending of this, but it gets murderous and it gets blood-soaked. And this guy is fucking dangerous. And Trav has dealt with maniacs like this before, but it takes a lot out of Travis to be able to fucking do it. And this is not like as severe as like the Green Ripper. It's not as well written as Darker Than Amber. It actually has it's almost like reminiscent of Darker Than Amber. Like, almost like this was his test book before that one. But it's really enjoyable. It's not as good as The Tan and Sandy Silence. It's not as good as Darker Than Amber. It's not even as good as The Deep Blue Goodbye. Or The Green Ripper. I would say it's better than a couple of others. It's better than A Deadly Shade of Gold. It's better than The Quick Red Fox. It's a really good book. It's a really good Travis McGee book, and I smashed it in a day. And it was just, if you just want a good book to read, pick up John D MacDonald, anything by Travis McGee, but Bright Orange for the Shroud. There's this horrible bit. Now, lately I've been talking about Stephen King's book, Full Dark, No Stars, and a lot of the sexual violence in that book. There is a lot of sexual violence in this book. Well, mainly just 2 scenes, but it was too much for me. And thankfully, John D MacDonald, like Stephen King, he doesn't go into details like Richard Lehman would. So you understand the intensity of it and the horribleness of it. And Travis can't actually help this person, which sucks. He's bleeding out, and he has to just get out of there. And we have to hear this poor woman and what this maniac is doing to her, and it's fucking horrible. Thankfully, it's half a page. But the book is amazing. And at the very end, what I like about John D MacDonald, he's not going to give you like either a happy ending or a down ending. He's going to end the book where it ends. So it's kind of, it's always a little bit disjointed, and you kind of think, oh, is that it? And then you think about it for a while. It's like, yeah, no, that's a fucking perfect ending. You know, if you were to write one more page, you would have over-explained it. Less, it just wouldn't have made any sense. He always ends it where it's supposed to fucking end, and he takes chances when he does it. Great read, a great read. So Bright Orange for the Shroud, Travis McGee. I think it's the 6th one. Hey, tune in next week. I don't know what we're doing, but it'll be something great. Read some great books, watch some even better fucking movies, and don't take any shit from anyone.